we talk about it. I was with a group of my friends. We did like a Mother's Day thing a couple weeks ago, and we were all together and everybody's checking phones. Everybody has a story about, oh, before I left, I had to make sure he knew X, Y, and Z, or I had to leave this here, or, oh, is he with the dad? No, he went golfing. My mom came over. If this was a table full of the guys that came out for Father's Day, are they checking the phones? Did they feel the burden to make sure that we were set up with things before they left? This isn't necessarily like a man versus woman or partner versus partner type of thing. I think it's like, again, if we have a fully functioning and capable partner, why do we put that on ourselves? Kacie, are you feeling a little bit of mom guilt that you're away from Jack right now?
A little bit, always. He's literally sleeping. And I feel mom guilt.
I know.
It's constant. It's always. It's never ending. And it actually is a source of contention for Eric and I at times. Because I do projections and I do mind reading in addition to, and look those up because, my therapist has helped me work through this. Mind reading and projections, and that's what I do. I
project feelings out onto him that like he may or may not be feeling. Like you don't care, you're not worrying about this, like that kind of thing.
I dump on him. I'm an absent mom. When I am around Jack, I'm not even really a good mom. Like I just put all this on
he's
him.
Thinking about that.
Correct. Yes, those are his opinions on me. And I don't ever talk to him about it. And then I just get passive aggressive about it. So we're in the process of working through that. And it's been going great, but I just need to get out of my own way. What about you?
Yeah, I think the only time, you pretty much nailed it at the beginning that he's sleeping. Like the only time that I feel truly content about my children or like my mom brain or like my ability of parenting is when they're sleeping.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, they are good right now. Like they are sleeping. They're not thinking anything. They're not thinking I'm not there enough. They're not thinking they don't like the person that's watching them. Instead, they're not thinking I'm not engaging with them enough. They're asleep. So even if I know they're in the best hands with like a really good trusted sitter or a family friend or my mom.
What about your mom though? I can turn off when my son is with my mom.
Yes, I can turn off about my kids, but I can't turn off about my mom. Because then I'm like, is this too much for her? Is she worrying? Does she think that I'm parenting okay?
Yeah.
But yes, it is my lowest level of concern when the kids are with my mom. But I remember for my baby moon, so to speak, with Asher, we went to Paris and Italy. We did like the beaches in the south of Italy. And I remember because of the time change, it's like we would wake up in the morning and I still had like 6 hours before Sienna even woke up. And it was so nice because I could be at such peace because I knew that she was sleeping. And I knew that like, okay, is it the person that's with her? It was a combination of my family and Mark's family. Like, are they feeding her the right things? Is she behaving okay? Or is she missing me? Is she freaking out? Like, I feel like I had like a full day when we were there because of the time change that I really could just relax. So everybody should take a European vacation.
Everyone should go to, I think my biggest takeaway from that was everyone should go to Europe.
Yeah. Mother Up sponsored trip. Let's aim for that. Mother Up meetup in the Amalfi Coast.
Tour buses and we'll do a whole thing. It won't be anything dumb, I promise. It'll be very well planned out. Would you say that you have less mom guilt when your mom is with the kids or your husband?
That's interesting. Probably less with my mom. That's interesting that you brought that up because
I think there's so many reasons why. So many reasons.
There's a little bit of that projecting, like you said, like he's worried that I'm not doing enough. He's worried, like, why is he doing this? And I'm not, like, why did I choose to go out to this girls' dinner? Or why did I do this? Because, like, which he never thinks.
Being a stay-at-home mom contributes to that too. I think
100%.
if you and I were going to a 9-to-5, like we used to do, physically leaving the house and going to work, I think it would be different.
I don't know though, but would it be worse? Because then you'd say to yourself, well, I'm out of the house all day and now I'm choosing to be out of the house again. He probably thinks I'm a nut job for even wanting to do that.
That's true. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about, that we layer these societal, I guess, checkpoints or necessities or check boxes onto ourselves.
And we're going to go over a really interesting article about that. You said societal there, and like how much of this is true and that we're actually wired, quote unquote, to think this way, or how much of this has been put on us and almost like we're being gaslit by society to feel this way. And there are some really interesting
I'm
points
going to
in that
hold
argument.
all my comments until we get to that because I have a
Yes.
lot of comments.
Yes.
A lot of
All right.
comments.
So first, let's break down what mom guilt is. And the best part that I want to say about this is there's
Where
an
are you
article.
right now also?
I know. I'm in a friend's house.
Oh,
Because
amazing.
yeah, our internet was going out and I was like, I am not playing that game today.
Okay.
So I
It's
have
beautiful. Because I was like, oh,
lovely-
is this like
I
a
know.
rec room in your home?
Yeah, it's so nice. Lovely family friend down the street let me come here, which is good because I got here and then realized I forgot my microphone. So because Sienna likes to play with it and she moved
Yeah.
it in like in another spot. And I was like, oh my gosh. So luckily I'm only
You
literally
do
4
have two
minutes from the
microphones
house.
though, so you need to give it to her. But the other question or the other thing is, it's 2024 and it's not, hi, I need to borrow a cup of sugar or some butter. It's like, hey, can I use your Wi-Fi for a minute?
So true. So true.
All right, get to
Um,
it. Back on track.
Okay. So we're going to like define what mom guilt is. And the best part about this is that I found this article on the Cleveland Clinic's website. If you're not familiar, the Cleveland Clinic is one of the most prestigious medical institutions in our country. So the fact that they have an article dedicated to mom guilt is telling you how important this is and like how negative it really is to a woman's health. So they spoke with a functional medicine doctor. We've talked about functional medicine a bunch
Millennials are
on
also
here.
starting to be decision makers at these big corporations. So that's why.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So we'll link to this article, but
Mhm.
it here defines mom guilt as the incessant voice in the back of your head saying you're doing it wrong, that you're not the parent, the partner, and the professional you should be. So I think this is interesting because it goes further than just the parent, right? This isn't like, it really isn't just even mom guilt. It's like entire person guilt.
Mhm.
Like that you're not parent, partner, and professional that you should be. Because obviously when you're pulling from one area to, it's like you're trying to be a little bit better in one area, you're taking away from the other. And it just, there's no way that you could really satisfy all of them. So it says mom guilt is a name given to the feelings of guilt and shame. And some people feel when they don't live up to their own or others' expectations in their role as a parent. And I think you really touched on that in the beginning, Case, when you said that like projection that you do. It's like you have this idea of what Eric's expectations
Mhm.
are of you, whether true or false. And like that's
yeah.
what you go with instead of
Oh, it's
hearing
Bible.
from
Like,
him what he really expects.
oh, yeah. Like he's ready to serve me papers because I didn't empty the dishwasher. Like it's the catastrophizing. It is the worst case scenario. It is the negative self-talk is what it goes back
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, the flip side is you can't live in la la land. Like the house is a disaster. The garage is on fire. The kids are toilet papering the bathroom. And you're like, I'm awesome.
Do those people exist though?
Yes.
I mean, they have
Yes,
to be, I guess
they
are
do.
they
I
the
know
narcissists
some.
of the world? Like we
No, I
had Dr.
think they
Jamie
are
Zuckerman
just-
on about that.
No, I think
That they
they're
just
just
think they're
free
spotty.
spirit, zen, chill, probably smoke a lot of marijuana.
I mean, maybe, but I find that I am maybe not. I think I'm
No,
a free
you
spirited
know-
parent. Like I let my kids,
No,
I'm
not
very,
like that. Not
I'm-
like that.
I think I'm very far off from being a helicopter parent. Like I very much let my kids explore and go and do. Like we're at a restaurant and my kid reaches for the knife, but I'm like, okay, go for it. And then see it's not that fun and then put it down. Like if they're waving it in their air and they're going to hurt somebody and clearly not a steak knife, but I let them do that where I know that there are other parents that are like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And that's fair. That's
We're
totally
those
fine if that's
parents.
the way that you're
And
parent.
Jack will see a knife and he goes, only mommies, only daddies.
Oh, cute. But then I think, so then I get into my head of like, oh, but are other people looking at me like I'm a bad parent because I'm not protecting those things? But it's really just like, I want them to be able to explore. I want them to be able to figure out how to get up a little staircase or how to get to something or how to get up on a chair or something
that's
like
good.
that. Yeah. But
And if they
I
fall,
also
it's
think it's
okay.
very, yeah, I think it's kid dependent too. I certainly know some kids where like you give them an inch, they take a mile, and the next thing you know, they're jumping off of the house.
The
And my
kids that
kids just
are
are not that
trying
way
to
yet.
Kill themselves. Yes, those are the
Right.
children. But no,
Right.
think like your whole life. Women who, and I applaud you. I wish I could be like this, who float through life just catching butterflies, just like, huh, huh,
Yeah.
huh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
do. Those are the moms that like, I don't
No, but
think
I
they
think
have
that
mom guilt.
no, I do. I do. I truly do. Like, I would love to know if you're listening right now and you're like, what's mom guilt? I don't
And
really
you're a
have
butterfly
that. Then you
catcher,
need to
reach
email
out.
us immediately, motheruppod@gmail. Like, put in subject line urgent. Like, we need to talk to you immediately.
You need to come on.
Yeah, I don't think it exists. I think there's some part of that in everybody. Probably there's a spectrum of how severe it is. But the thing that's interesting is, so here it says it's commonly called mom guilt because in our culture, it's often assumed that moms bear the burden of juggling work, life, and parenting. But in reality, the guilt comes with making seemingly impossible choices between competing demands can happen to any parent or caregiver.
Mhm.
But dad guilt ain't a thing. Grandma guilt ain't trending.
Well, so here's the thing. I think dad guilt is a thing. And I think not, I mean, I
Well,
would venture to
not
say,
a trendy thing or a commonplace. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying the
right.
term hashtag dad guilt isn't out there.
No, dad guilt isn't out there. But remember that thing I sent you?
What
Remember
thing?
that thing on Instagram?
Oh, we just recently, yeah, about how dads' lives are affected, like actual physical responses or
let's save that
some-
for the end. We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
But there are 8 ways fatherhood changes men, and it's like chemically, physically, mentally. So we'll talk about that on the end, and also in light of Father's Day. Because listen, these babies wouldn't be here without the daddies, the Mac daddies. So we applaud you, and happy Father's Day to you guys. But yeah, we'll loop that in at the end. But it's just an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on this. You know, we talk about it. You know, I was with a group of my friends. We did like a Mother's Day thing a couple weeks ago, and we were all together, and everybody's checking phones. Everybody has a story about, oh, before I left, I had to make sure he knew X, Y, and Z, or I had to leave this here, or oh, is he with the dad? No, he went golfing. My mom came over. If this was a table full of the guys that came out for Father's Day, are they checking the phones as much? Did they feel the burden to make sure that we were set up with things before they left? This isn't necessarily like a man versus woman or partner versus partner type of thing. I think it's like, again, if we have a fully functioning and capable partner, why do we put that on ourselves? Why do we feel that we're the default parent? Is it because these babies came from us that we always feel like they're a little bit more ours than theirs?
I think so. I think that's what it is. I think it is quite literally, we are animals and this is nature. And I think it's, you know, how they say,
quite literally, we can't detach.
A piece of your children's DNA stays in you. You know, like
Yes.
there is a mother's intuition. I mean,
Yeah.
I do believe in all the woo-woo crap, but I think a lot of people who don't believe in woo-woo crap believe in that as well. Mother's intuition. Like moms, like oh my gosh, I just saw something where the mom called her daughter and she was like, where are you? And she's like, I'm in a bar. And she's like, you need to get out. I just had a horrible dream. There was blood everywhere. The daughter got out and there was like a mass shooting in the bar an hour later. Like there's freaky mom things like that you just know. Like I was talking to one of my girlfriends, you know, when your kids are sick because you can smell their breath. Like Jack's breath changes, or I just see his eyes and I'm like, he's about to get sick. Like there's definitely that DNA
We're
cosmic
just a little bit
connection.
more in tune. Yeah.
I think so. But then there's times where Eric like reads Jack like a book and I'm like, oh, he's just playing. And Eric's like, no, he is so ready for a nap. I'm like, you're delusional. And then 5 minutes later, Jack's like,
yeah. I do think that mother's intuition is a thing, but I do think that my partner is incredibly capable and Mark can do anything that I can do.
But I think it goes back to mom guilt because God forbid you get home a little bit tipsy from your night with the girls and you're like, oh, how did it go? And he's like, well, there wasn't any milk for Asher and Sienna, there was nothing for Sienna to eat. And, you know, I had to keep them up late.
And I put that on me that I was supposed to have prepared all of that when really like we are both equal partners in this household. I mean, he could have done those things too, but like I'm supposed to prepare the house for him to watch them.
But that's just
quote,
him
unquote,
giving you a news report.
Them.
And that's you.
Yeah. Well, there's the thing of like
taking it to the next level.
You want it to be an absolute like shit show. Excuse my language. Absolute SHIT show when you're gone, because it's like you want your husband to see what you deal with all day.
No, I want it to be
Sometimes,
like
but you
rainbows and
no, I mean,
butterflies and
but this
roses.
is I'm saying there's things like this out on social media that when you're like, "Oh, how was it with the kids?" And he's like, "Oh, it was great. Everybody's like sitting there quietly and everything's
Yeah.
fine." And it's like the mom's brain like explodes because then now the partner doesn't understand when she says like, "Oh my God, today was insane," or like, "I couldn't get this done because I was dealing with this." And he's like, "What do you mean you couldn't get it done? They just sit there and they're fine." So yeah, the I guess the like inequality in the types of experiences that children have with their moms and their dads too, or their grandparents and all that. But we always say like, because Sienna, I've talked about, does push her boundaries with us as far as sleep goes. And she'll be pretty testy when it's time to go to sleep, or she won't sleep through the night and doesn't want to go back to
Mhm.
sleep, a lot of the times when she's sick. And then there'll be a sitter or she'll be at my mom's for the night and she sleeps until 9 a.m. And Mark gets so upset about it when he's like, she is playing games with us. I know
Right.
it. Like, I can't believe she is fine for your mom. And I said, you know what? I would rather that. I'd rather her fight us every single night. And then when it's time for her to be with somebody else, because I want people to sign up to watch my kid again.
And then
Like,
when you're off the
I
clock,
want
you're
to
off the
be
clock.
able,
Yeah.
yeah, like, but I want us to be able to have that option to have a night away. And it's not that we can't find somebody, I'd rather it that way than she sleeps like an angel for us, but we can't ever leave her because she's an
Yeah.
emotional disaster, you know? Um,
The other thing that is interesting, we were talking about parents watching kids. I've seen memes of this, and I don't know. I mean, you have a larger net like cast of friends with children. Um, Basically saying that the boomer and Gen X parents, so our generation's parents, are not as hands-on as our grandparents were. Where
mm,
so many people are like our age are saying, I got dropped off at my grandparents' house every single weekend, or like they picked me up from school. And there are a lot of people, this is not true in my case, and I know it's not true in your case, but there are a lot of people saying now our parents are just kind of like, I'm good. Like I'm living my life.
yes.
And they're not jumping in.
Yes.
I don't know that, but that's just
So,
something that I've seen memes of.
right. That's not the case in my family, but my parents are very, nicely involved. But my mom has stories from her friends.
My
We
son's
live in
up, I hear.
Florida, and that friends of hers have decided, they did the part time, they lived in Chicago or Minneapolis, somewhere in the Midwest, and then
Mhm.
they were going back and forth to Florida. And then they
Snowbirds, yeah.
finally decided, yeah, and they finally decided they were going to move to Florida full time. And the children had like a conniption about it because they were like, but who's going to be here for our kids?
Right.
And the problem was that the grandparents were like, that's not my job. Like, yeah, I love to be with my grandchildren. I love to be there to help you out, but because it like fit into our daily life. But now I want to go and do something else. And this son like stopped talking to his mom and thought
Yeah.
that she was being so selfish to move out of state to not be there to help him with childcare anymore. So, I mean, yeah, people are getting younger technically. It's funny, you look at the pictures and you say, like, what, the Golden Girls were like 50 or 60 or something, and they looked like they were 109. And now these people in the 50s and 60s are like in their 20s, basically. They're having the time of their life.
Well, yes, we're definitely aging. Do you hear Jack like beeping,
Yeah,
setting
what
the
is he
car
beeping?
alarm? He just likes to go and look at all of the cars. He's a big gearhead, but that is another thing that we're like aging backwards. Like I think they showed,
Mhm.
is it Sally Fields is in Father of the Bride?
I don't think it's, no, Diane Lane.
Diane Lane. Okay, but like also
Yes,
Sally
and she
Fields,
looked
like
exactly
the
the same.
parents,
Yeah,
but like the typical parents in those like 80s, 90s movies, and they look
haven't
so
changed a
old.
day
And it's like,
since we
wait,
were, yeah.
this is 45. Like this is
Mhm.
not like now 45 is like hot and
Yeah,
skanky. And it's like,
yeah,
whoa.
yeah. Yeah. So one of the things though that this talks about is how this guilt that we can have is really equivalent to stress. So talk about guilt and shame being associated with this. That's associated with stress. And then where stress is something that physically affects the body. So mom guilt really, I don't pass this off as just like, oh, it's just this thing that I feel. No, it's actually probably affecting you more physically than you think. Maybe you want to blame the way that you're feeling on other things. And it really, the mom guilt could be the root of it. So when that builds up, it's going to lead to things like anxiety and depression, increased heart rate, increased blood pressure. So you want to make sure that you're monitoring it. But at the same time, like we kind of just talked about, guilt is a healthy reaction, I think. Like it's okay and normal
Well,
to have
guilt
some
means
guilt.
you have a conscience. Like guilt is
Exactly.
good because that means that you have a moral compass and you know right from wrong and you love deeply and you want the best for other people, maybe sometimes even more so than yourself. So I think, yes, a healthy dose of guilt. If like Eric got up with Jack both mornings, like the last 2 mornings, yesterday and today. And I'm like, oh shoot, like I have 2 hours worth of podcasts. Like I need to jump in. I need to give him a break. And it's that kind of stuff where you have to you have to straddle the line of being like, okay, we're both parents. We both love this kid. It's not like a chore to be with. It's literally not. We love being with him. We like race to go get him in the morning. But I need to stop having that negative self-talk and talk to my partner about it. And again, going back to communication, it's not easy, but I think a lot of mom guilt, I actually know from experience, a lot of mom guilt can be alleviated, dissipated, and dismissed when you have open lines of communication with your partner.
Yes. Right.
And lean on them
times out of
because
10,
they want to
I'll say
help.
something to Mark and he's like, no, I want you to go to this dinner. You should go to that. Or I want you to go to that workout class. Or I want you to do whatever it is that you need to do. I like even yesterday, he was like, hey, I'm going to take the kids to the park with my dad. Like, if you want to stay here and get some more stuff done for the podcast, go ahead. And I was like, it's interesting.
Can you hear that horn beeping?
I know. I love it. Adding sound effects to the podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Is it annoying?
No, it's just happening every few seconds.
Okay. All right.
I feel like it's Jack putting his 2 cents into the...
He's agreeing. It's like the episode, yes. Snaps. It's like, snaps for that.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Seriously. So yeah, the point of this podcast is not to say that you can't have mom guilt. It's that, okay, just make sure we're getting a healthy dose of it. So we talked a little bit about how we feel it in our lives, but I do think it's interesting. It's like how you kind of feel it no matter what. It's like you feel guilty about.
And I'm going to text him. I feel the most guilty.
Yeah.
This is interesting. One of the ways to alleviate mom guilt, according to Cleveland Clinic, is self-care.
Yes.
I feel the most intense mom guilt while partaking in self-care.
Yes. I know.
I even said that to Eric. I was like, you need me to watch Jack because you're calling a game or you're doing your podcast or you're doing this. And I'm like, I need you to watch Jack because I'm going to get my nails done for 2.5 hours, or I'm going to get a facial, or I want to get a massage, or I want to. But girls need to do those things.
Yeah.
To feel good and to be our best selves.
But I think one of the problems with me is that like sometimes I'll fill up my time with something that's so innocuous or like doesn't really have any benefit to the family, but like I think it does. And therefore I do that instead of, I don't know, like, oh, I think that we need like a new rug for the entryway. And then I go to Home Goods and I do that and I can't find something that I like and da-da-da. And is it really going to change the family dynamic if we have a new rug? No, but I can stomach
but I think
doing
it has
that
a ripple
little
effect.
bit more because I say that I'm doing it for the family instead of going to get myself a massage.
But I think that it has a ripple effect in the sense that I know you're not supposed to feel like this. I like my things. I like certain towels. I'm really getting set in my ways. I'm really getting to be a crotchety old woman where I like certain towels and I like my dishes and I like.
Newsflash, you've been a crotchety old woman, but sure, continue.
I have been, but I've been in a million rentals and I just don't want some other lady's things anymore. And I think when I have my things, like I know I love my vegetable peeler. I know exactly where it is. It's from Williams-Sonoma. It's actually unbelievable. Be careful because you'll slice your finger off, but it's so good. But when I know that I have my things and I know how my house runs and I know where everything is in my house, I am a happier person.
Yes.
So like when dumb things make me happy, and maybe this is like a Northeastern thing, but there's something about refreshing your house when spring is coming. And if there's something about getting a new runner in your kitchen, like a $60 Safavi or whatever it's called from Amazon. There's something about just like replacing your doormat with a new fresh doormat.
It is true. And I mean,
And it ripples.
There are things about motherhood where I feel like that doormat will become so loud to me. And I
If it's
don't know
dingy, you mean?
why. Yeah. And it's like, I have to get this changed. But then I say to myself, like, was that really the best use of my time right there? Did I really need that new doormat, or did I really need an hour to myself, or just an hour with a friend, or hour, somewhere else? And that's part of it we're going to get into with this, how it talks about like really dissecting what are the feelings coming from? Why are you feeling the way that you're feeling? And how can you really like treat the cause instead of kind of just like putting Band-Aids on things?
You need self-reflection. You need to get really good at communicating with yourself and reverse engineering things, because maybe you would rather go get or grab a bottle of wine and sit out on your back patio or your friend's patio and just sit and chit chat for 2 hours. And for me, like, I probably really do want to go to Home Goods and get that new doormat. And I really probably do want to get a few more tchotchkes to put around the house.
You're an interesting creature like that, because I feel like we talked about this on what was the episode that we did, like about love languages and how we differ in that way. We should do like a introvert extrovert test, or the other thing that somebody mentioned to us, the Enneagrams. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it, but like as much as I need my personal time, my quiet time, my white space time to just like be in my own thoughts or just spend time with my unit of my husband and my family, I also get energized by social contact and spending time with friends or spending time with family, like good quality time. I feel like you don't have that. I feel like
I don't have a friend group. I mean, I'm just, like my best friend Tyler lives here. She just had a baby.
Now that you moved.
We just moved in, and it's been crazy town since we moved in. And now we're going to Nantucket for 2 weeks. And, it's just like, we're not settled yet. Like, we're still in that summer craziness mode. So I know that once we are in a house and, once things settle, it will be very different. I'm like, okay, this is my friend group. Like, I'm in a book club now. That's once a month though. But it's like, I like to know here's the thing. When you have an event, you know the couples who are going, you know what to expect, you know everyone's personality, you know the dynamic, and you know you're going to have fun. Like, you know what's coming around the corner.
Right.
I just am flying by the seat of my pants still.
Yeah. But I think that you're somebody, you are like, your self-care is more so to, like you said, like go get that new vegetable peeler and not go get wine with your friends. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, everybody's like vice for themselves,
but I
could
think
be different.
That
it's just like figuring that out for yourself.
I have this weird thing where, like, if my space isn't tidy and neat, like you can see behind me,
my brain
I still
is
have
a mess.
I still have all my podcast boxes assembled with like wrapping paper.
Yeah.
In the podcast room, because I know that like we're not staying here. This is a rental.
Yeah.
So if my space isn't good, like I still haven't unpacked my suitcase from the wedding this weekend. I unpacked Jack's. Eric unpacked his. I need to unpack mine. But like, if my space is a mess, I can't justify me going out of the house.
Yes. And I feel that way
it's like
too.
a punishment.
And that's why, like, this past week when we moved back up to New Jersey, I spent so much of my time unpacking and getting things settled. And I tell myself, I'm doing this now so that I can spend time with my kids.
Right.
But then so there's a fly going around. But then I say to myself, but why does this matter?
Correct.
Why does that bother me so much?
Because
why can't I just spend that time with my kids?
Your husband is going to say, we just got to our beautiful beach house. Can't you just get organized?
No.
And
my
then you're going to
not care.
No, correct. But you might tell yourself that. But you could tell yourself that. The mom guilt. That's what I would tell myself.
But see, my situation's different because Mark doesn't care if he has to look through a box and find a hand towel and then put it back in that towel. Like, he'd be like, great, this is where the towels now go. Like, he would be fine. It's me that needs it and just to feel settled. Yeah. One more thing I want to talk about before we get into the like alternative take on all of this that I had mentioned at the beginning. But I think social media has a lot to do with this. And now there's certainly a benefit to it. Like, you might be watching this clip on social media right now if we put out this promo. But, there's a way that there's like a community of this to say, okay, everyone is feeling this way. A lot of people have the same feeling. This isn't a problem with you. This is just kind of like something that comes with the package of motherhood. But there's so much info out there about how to do things better, faster, slower, healthier, cheaper. There's always more options that how could you possibly think you're not doing something wrong? When you're flooded every day with other ways to be doing things that are supposedly making your life better if you were to do it this way and not this way, like you're constantly thinking, I'm not doing that. I'm clearly messing up for my family. I'm not doing this. Like, if you're not putting the effort into these things, then you're doing it wrong. And it's your fault that it's not functioning better for your family.
Well,
So-
even like we were getting meals delivered. We were doing like a meal delivery service. And my first 2 trimesters, basically, I couldn't even look at food to prepare it. It made me sick. And I was like, oh my God, I'm such a waste of space. Like, I'm not even a good wife. I can't do anything. I'm not making anything. So now I'm like, and I do love to cook, but I know I can feel myself putting pressure on myself to cook every night, but I do love it. So it's still that like, but I like it, but I feel like I'm supposed to be doing it.
Yeah. So you had mentioned the communication and things like that. I would do that all the time. I would say to Mark, like, is it okay that I didn't cook tonight? He's like, I don't care. Like, this is great. We have this delicious takeout now. That's fine. Like, I hope you don't feel like you have to cook for me. I don't care what we eat. It doesn't matter. So it's like stupid as it sounds sometimes, but I kind of learned that from him because he would do that to me. He'd be like, is it okay that I didn't go for a run today? I just like really couldn't get myself in my head in the game. And I'm like, of course it's
cool,
fine.
though.
Like, you'll do it tomorrow. And
That's
I'll say,
cool
like,
though, because it's almost like I don't want to
like
say like
checks and
you look to
balances.
each other to each other for reassurance. And I think that's
Yeah.
really telling of how much you trust each other and how much you rely on each
100%.
other to uplift you. And that's really cool. I love that.
I think trust is a good word there because I do trust him fully. Like, he's not a yes man. Like, he will tell me 100%, like, gee, like, you really should have, done this today, or you really should, and if I say like, I just felt so awful, is it okay that I like didn't go to this thing? And he's like, 100%, like, you were going to be a disaster if you pushed yourself to go to that. And then it's like, I put it away and I don't think about it again. I don't ruminate on it because
Were you
I
always
really,
like
truly,
that? Or did you have to build the safe space for him to be able to tell you those things?
I think that got built early on after my dad passed away because he was my second brain. He was my backup generator. I mean, we said that in our vows. Like, there were just times where I didn't trust myself to even do a thing. And sometimes it backfired. I actually do remember like screaming at him one time because he was like, oh, like, don't hurt yourself. Like, be careful with that knife. And I was cutting up a tomato and I was like, I know how to use a fucking knife. And he's like, okay, well, you literally asked me for help with every other thing. So like just making sure like the brain is actually functioning today to remember that is sharp and that could hurt you. But yeah, I think it was that experience where like I had to rely on his judgment to be my own.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
I really do love that.
Yeah. All right. This take that I keep talking about. So Beth Berry has a blog called The Revolution from Home. And she wrote an article in March of 2023 called Mom Guilt is BS. We will link to it. I want to read a little bit from it. Her take is that mom guilt is manufactured. It's intentionally cultivated in us. The powers that be, namely the patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy, and those who benefit most from these structures, bombard us with the constant messages about all we need to be doing, purchasing, and prioritizing, about what's important and worth our resources. We internalize these messages and adjust our decision-making and prioritization accordingly because we want to be good moms and good people. We want our loved ones to be happy and well. We are desperately longing to live with less stress and more ease, which we just talked about in social. And then when we can't keep up with all the seemingly important things we've been told that we must prioritize in order to be quote unquote good, we feel guilty. Not because we're not doing enough, but because the messaging is intentionally designed to play upon our core values, our unmet needs, our deepest desires, and our greatest vulnerabilities. So then we work even harder, take on even more unpaid labor, and purchase more products, which props up and perpetuates the existing power structures. The more we care, the guiltier we feel. And the guiltier we feel, the easier we are to control, exploit, and market to. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
That really,
so a couple here on that tangent.
I am sure you have a million things to say, and I can't wait to
have
hear.
a couple stats on this. So
Yes.
women in the United States control or influence 85% of consumer spending, and their spending habits can vary from men's, obviously. Women make 70% of the travel decisions. Women spend more money per shopping trip than men. On average, $3,600 annually on food. Yeah, right. With food prices now, that's fake news.
That's a month. Yeah.
But okay, so we influence 85% of consumer spending. They
Yes.
always talk about the suburban woman vote whenever there's an election coming up. We wield incredible power,
Yes.
but we are gaslit. And that is what is now coming to light. And I know, what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. The Chiefs kicker, Butkus or Butker.
Oh, yeah.
So he was saying, like, embrace your femininity, stay home, blah, blah, blah. There is this push to be a stay-at-home mom because childcare is asinine in this country. The price is ridiculous for childcare in this country. And sometimes it is cheaper for the mom to stay home than work just to pay for childcare and barely do that. And then also pay for groceries. But I digress. There's this whole, notion in the corners of the Instagram world that feminism was started to gaslight women into going to work to generate more taxes for the government. So, and more jobs, because then you have nannies, you have daycare, you have this, that, and the other thing. And it doesn't really strike me as a conspiracy theory. It just makes sense. And then we are, to your point, gaslit to think, well, you have to be a career woman and you have to be a girl boss and you can do it all. And if you can't do it all, well, you're lazy or you're selfish or you're not a great mom or you're not a great wife and you should really strive to be more. And look at this influencer on Instagram. And social media has definitely, it's like the NOS button on Fast and the Furious.
I mean, like your house isn't clean enough, don't you? So if you buy this $1,000 vacuum, you'll have so much more time because you'll be able to do it. Right. So it's
the $1,000 vacuum also keeps breaking. Like I hate the Dyson vacuum. It is sleek and it's great, but it breaks all the time. Don't buy it.
Yeah. But it's the biggest thing too, I think is interesting. We talked about like, it's gaslighting us to feel like this is how we're wired. Like, oh, I'm a woman and this is just the mother's intuition, the mom guilt, all of that is part of it because this is just, we're wired differently. We're emotional. We're this, we're that. But is it really, is that the problem? Or is it just because we've heard of this messaging so much? Or are there other problems going on in our life that we really should be identifying and seeing where the source of this is coming from anyway? Like,
well,
are there other things?
We've talked about how growing up, like your mom had a designer bag. Like no one had a Dolce & Gabbana shirt. Nobody had a Dior bathing suit. Like I had fake ones from eBay for sure. I know I got like a fake Louis Vuitton bikini from eBay that was probably $45 from China. But there is so much pressure to have all these designer brands, these name brands, and just driving consumerism, where we were talking about it the other day, like people will be house poor because they want like the apartment in Miami on the water, or they get a lease on a Porsche that they cannot afford so that people think they drive, or people know they drive a Porsche.
There was actually something
keeping up with the Joneses, but it's amplified because of social media.
Something that came out, a report on the housewives and like how many of them either A, are gifted the items they're wearing, B, are renting, or C, are just downright fakes. And that they're out here promoting this lavish lifestyle, which is then promoting the behaviors of the modern American to go out and purchase these labels to be like the people that they idolize on TV. When
it's like the viral song of the summer.
Or
I'm looking for a man in finance, blue
Yeah.
eyes, 6'5", trust fund, whatever it is. It's like, yes, that sounds glitzy and glamorous, but then did you see the alternate version of it where the girl's like,
I'm looking for a presidential candidate.
No, where the girl was
There's
like,
that one.
I don't know the lyrics, but basically she was saying like, big house, no kids, he's having an affair for 10 years, but like I have basically like I have a nice life, so I'm going to shut up and I'm going to make everything look fabulous on social media. But like that is a thing. And if this podcast has taught you nothing, nothing is what it seems. Nothing is what you have created in your mind. Nothing is the catastrophe or the fantasy or the illusion that you think it is. The grass is not greener on the other side. Everybody has their crap. And the only way out is through. And you just need to focus on what you can control and control it and use your resources and ask for help because people who love you want to help you.
Precisely. And that's what the author of this article said, you know, in terms of getting through this. A recommendation for her that she says is to get curious. Get curious about yourself and see what are the underlying feelings that are here that might need an outlet. And what you said, whether that's you need self-care or whether that you really do need to go get that rug from Home Goods. But then also to seek out some of your community members to see if there are others that are feeling the same way, that you can say, okay, this is a little bit more normal than I had anticipated. These feelings aren't actually something that I need to be having anxiety about because it's felt across the board. Or to seek out somebody in your community who might meet the need that you're struggling with. So if it is, like you said, like I just want to have a little bit of more of a group or a community, or I just need some quiet time and it's somebody who's going to force me to go on a walk with them every morning and we're just going to be in our own zone as we do it. The problem with the community is that they're not always there and that they may not always show up and that it is being purported that there should be a community to help moms. And if they're not there, your children should be aware of that. I thought this was so interesting. She said, make kids aware of the lack of the village if necessary to prevent the thinking that mom is the one at fault. This way, they're less likely to grow up perpetuating this narrative that their mom didn't give them what they needed. And they're better able to identify the villagelessness as a primary source of so many people's struggles at every stage of life. We need to help them see what is possible and understand what's lacking so that they're better equipped to do their part as the next generation of change makers.
So does this mean don't let your kids just make excuses for things and rely on you for everything and make them soft?
I think it's saying...
No, I'm saying don't make them soft. Like,
if
be
Johnny
real with them.
comes to you... Yeah, if Johnny comes to you and says, well, so-and-so's mom has been at every baseball game of mine or blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, so-and-so's mom has a full-time care for her toddler child and is able to go, but I don't. Like, mommy's job is to be here at home with the babies and I can't leave because that's nap time or whatever. Not faulting one parent over the other, but just saying like, our situations are different. And it's not that I don't love you, that I'm not there. It's just, that's just not what is here, because you know that village or whatever, whether it's a nanny or a grandparent that can come over and watch the other child, that's where the space is, or I don't know what the word is I'm looking for there.
And the hard thing is, you don't ever have enough. You can never have enough empathy or understanding, or, and I'm getting emotional, or love or respect or gratitude for your mom until you become a mom. And I just feel like for 32 years of my life, I took her for granted. And I still have my moments when I take her for granted. But it is such an eye-opening experience. And, you know, you can't say to your kids, oh, like mommy can't be there because like your grandparents aren't around, or like your grandparents live, like my parents are 3 hours away. You know, it's hard and they don't understand that. And it's so hard to communicate that and convey these huge things to your children and not seem like you're the bad guy. I don't even know if that makes sense, but
I will say
you have to keep them in a bubble a little bit.
My perception of what my mom went through, or what my mom may have been feeling when I was younger, has been changed greatly since becoming a mom myself. My parents divorced when I was very young, and she was a single mother. We moved in with my grandparents for 6 years, which I thought was the best thing that ever happened to me. Sleepover at Grammy and Pop-Ups. This is fabulous. But I think about, okay, like now at my age, if something happened and I had to move back in with my parents, there's a lot of shame around that. And I never had even considered that that is maybe something my mom would have felt. I never even considered how difficult it was for her, that this life she had planned for herself of a marriage and a love with a man didn't work out. Like, I just thought, oh, okay, like, she moved out. She was fine with it. She dropped me off at Grammy and Pop-Ups because she just didn't really want to like deal with it. And I don't really have that many memories of her being around. But I didn't think of it negatively. I just thought, oh, she was off doing her own thing. But she wasn't. She was off working. She was off trying to, have other relationships, trying to at least
Make
be
your life
happy
better
for herself. And I can't imagine how much guilt she probably had with that. But that's not something you ever could understand until you're a mom yourself. I also think about my dad and my parents being divorced. I remember I was just talking about this with somebody the other day about people that share their children. My heart goes out to you. I really don't think that other people understand this, because I remember prior to having kids, I was like, wow, single parents, honestly, have it the best. You get to have kids, but then you get to have your time off when they're not at your house at all, and you get to do whatever the hell you want. Like, that's got to be awesome.
Oh my God, no, my heart would be ripped out of my chest.
No. So like, I think about that now and be like, God, that had to have been so hard for my mom to just like let me walk away some weekends or some days. And she doesn't know what I'm doing, and she doesn't know how he's parenting or what, I'm being exposed to, or different fights that they would get in. I'm like, why is this such a big deal? Well, because they had very different ideas of how to parent. And, I just see everything
differently,
very differently. Yeah.
Oprah said it, and I remember it made me so mad. And she said, you can have it all, just not all at once. And I was like, save it, Oprah. Yeah, right. I'll show you, Oprah. And you don't want to have it all at once, because you're not going to fill every cup. Every cup is only going to have so much water in it, and it's exhausting. And I tried to do it. I tried to do marriage and a new child and Eric's career and my family and his family, and where are we going to live and what are we going to do? And blah, 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 blah. It's so draining. And I think I'm finally at the point in my life where I am consolidating glasses, and I am picking my favorite ones, and I am trying my best and failing a lot of the time, but that's okay, because you still have to try and you need to fail in life. But I'm trying to fill those special, important glasses to the very top every single day. And that's all you can do.
Yeah. That's why I like where the author said, get curious. I think that's such a creative way of putting it. It's to like, get curious and dig a little bit deeper into your own psyche and see how you feel about these things. And that's certainly something that I think about. And I mean, to be very like real and honest with you, like, this podcast is one of them. Like, okay, this is us taking time away from our kids right now. Is it necessary? No. But I think it makes me a better mom when I have my own time, or when I do these things. And quite honestly, it's become a therapy session for us, for the hour, 2-3 hours that we record at a time, or the experts that we can converse with, or
it's kind of a cheat code, TBH.
And our DMs and emails are filled with the people that are reaching out and saying, oh, I felt the exact same way, or this really helps me when you said this, because just to be able to have that community and to connect with people that are going through the same thing is just something so invaluable. And
you're like, oh, wow, I'm not a freak. This is normal.
Yeah, but like, it's not to say I don't beat myself up about it at least once a week, to say, is this so dumb? Am I going to look back and say, what the hell was I doing? Why did I take that time away for them to do that? And like, I'm sitting here having a whole episode on this, and I still feel.
Oh, yeah. Practice what you preach, baby. It's easier to give advice than take advice. I want to just I want to talk about the dads, because I think this is important, and I think it is really cool and interesting, because you did mention there isn't grandmother guilt, or there isn't this, that, and the other thing. So Dr. Mark Hyman, who people have their thoughts on, he's very popular.
What are their thoughts? I don't know if I know him. Or like know what
I think his like dating life might be a little scandalous. I don't know. I don't partake. I just like the medical
for another
advice.
Episode. Okay.
So weight gain. Fathers gain weight faster throughout their life and weigh more than men without children.
Good.
Sleep challenges. Fathers with young children sleep around 80 hours less annually.
Sure.
Decreased testosterone. This is interesting. Testosterone levels are lower on average in fathers than men without children. Fatigue, mood swings, low libido, weight gain. decreased motivation, more stress. 40% of new fathers experienced heightened stress. We talk about that men aren't as great as women, especially in our generation, at talking about it, but they're getting better, which is great. Shifting estradiol, is that what it is?
It's one of the hormones.
Estradiol,
Yeah.
whatever it is, decreases in men during their partner's pregnancy and increases after the baby's birth. So it can lead to a hormone imbalance, migraines, mood swings, fatigue, low libido, weight fluctuations, loss of muscle mass, and erectile dysfunction. That's interesting. Fathers experience a 5-hour decrease in weekly physical activity, which is wild. You would think that it would increase.
Yeah.
Right. Increased prolactin. Prolactin levels rise in fathers after the birth of their children, which can lead to low energy, decreased muscle mass, hormone imbalance, decreased sperm production. It's kind of crazy. Becoming a father, though, adds an average of 2 years to your life expectancy.
I've heard this.
That's cool.
I think that's interesting because I'd have to wonder. I wondered about the rate of depression and if there's ever been a study about that from fathers to non-fathers, because there's just as much as there is going on with it. I just think the level of happiness or the level of laughter or the amount of laughter that you get in your life or the meaningfulness that your life has with children has got to tie into that somehow. I would be interested on stats on that.
We need to do an episode on fatherhood. You know what? We should have Justin Sua on and we could talk about all that.
Yes.
All the fatherhood stuff, because he is incredible. It's my husband's podcast co-host, and he is a life coach and he coaches CEOs, and it's incredible.
The Digging Deep podcast, you may not know about it, but your husbands probably do.
Actually, I will be I'm co-host, like not co-hosting, but I was on the Father's Day episode. So you can listen to that where I kind of interviewed the boys.
We'll put that out on our Mother Up channels. So just some more tips from the Cleveland Clinic about what you can do to combat it. We talked about self-care, how that looks different for different people, but to also get in tune with your breath, making sure that you're taking a minute, that you're breathing. They talked about the 5-finger touch. There's different things that you can do with your fingers to kind of slow yourself down in the moment and just focus on your breathing. And there's a quote here from the functional medicine doctor that says, when we feel guilt and stress, it can be like being in a pressure cooker where the intensity just keeps building. It's helpful to recognize when you need a timeout to calm your nerves and turn down the heat. So timeouts, not just for your toddlers, for yourself too.
I find for myself, even if I just look at Eric, physically walk up to him and say, there is something going on with me. I am really stressed. I am really anxious and I don't know what's happening. Sometimes I know why it is. Sometimes I don't. And he's like, okay, let's just take a breath. And just saying it, just breathing life into it and releasing it from your body is really nice. And giving it to someone and saying, I don't need you to do a thing. I just need you to listen and let me just exhale.
Love that. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And you could be seeing that others are feeling the same way. You know, if he were to say back to you, I am totally feeling the same way. I'm a little overstimulated by the situation. And then you're like, ooh, okay. It's not just me. We're both in this together. Mm-hmm.
That's it. You just need somebody to validate you. I see you. I get it. I'm here if you need me. That's 99% of it for me.
Yes. And that's this whole episode. We see you, we hear you, we get you. Kacie and I are on this journey with you. One more thing we did talk about, but in the Cleveland Clinic, they had also said it, avoid the comparison game. Try to remember you never know the full story. What we put out on social media or what we choose to share with others is often not the full picture. There are people in your life that are probably looking at you some days thinking that you too are setting a higher bar and that the people that you think you can't achieve what they're achieving, they are wishing that they could be achieving what you are achieving. So it's all a matter of perception. Try to get yourself away from that. That's why we try to keep it as real as possible here on Mother Up too. But hope this episode has been helpful for you, and just know that it is all a part of this and also normal, and we're here for you.
We love you.